I think, as you all have heard, we've decided to part ways with Ron Rivera. We appreciate Ron's efforts and everything he did for the franchise. I mean, obviously, he came here during a tumultuous time period, the ownership change, and he really added leadership. But clearly, we weren't good enough this year. We didn't get it done on the field, and so we've decided to go into a new direction. And I think, as you probably heard, I'm going to be leading that search, both for a head of football operations as well as a head coach. And I'm going to be assisted by my partners, Irvin Magic Johnson, Mitch Rails, and David Blitzer, as well as a couple very well-known sports executives, Bob Myers, who I've known for many years and have a tremendous amount of respect for, and Rick Spielman, who obviously is a 30-year football executive of the year, obviously 10 years with the Vikings. Obviously Bob Myers built one of the amazing sports teams of the last decade in the Golden State Warriors. They were tough to compete with, so I got to know him. And, even though this season was hard for me and hard for us, it's hard to win 4 games. From my point of view, we are coming out of this with poised for a great future. A lot of draft capital, a lot of cap space, and I'm lucky enough to be supported by an amazing ownership group, and obviously we think we're an attractive destination for the next generation of leadership. And so this is probably amongst the most important jobs I have as a managing partner, and it's important that I do this personally and get this right, and that we bring in the right leadership. So with that, I will open it up to whatever questions you might have. Thank you.
Josh, John Kine, ESPN. I'm curious with Bob and Rick, we know the resumes. What is it about them personally that made you want them to get involved, and what will their roles be beyond this search?
Yeah, so obviously I'll start with Bob. Bob Myers is a winner. Like, who wouldn't want him on your team trying to help your franchise? He knows how to identify talent. He knows how to build winning franchises, winning cultures. I mean, he's obviously not a football person. He's not been around football, but he's an amazing sports executive, and I'm, really happy to have him helping. He'll be around as an advisor to me. He's not going to be involved with X's and O's, but he'll be involved through the search process and beyond, as it relates to the Washington Commanders, helping us build an amazing franchise, an amazing culture, and a winning culture. Obviously, Rick Spielman brings a wealth of football knowledge, the ins and outs of football. He was executive of the year with the Vikings, with many other teams, and kind of brings that knowledge of football that you need, when you're interviewing candidates. And so he's going to be helping us through the search process, and we'll see after that. I'm not sure.
Hi, Josh. Nikki Jafala with the Washington Post. How do you envision the general structure for the front office? You mentioned, obviously, the head of football operations, but what is your vision for the structure, and then what are you looking for in candidates to fill that role?
Yeah, so we're looking for the best people to build an elite franchise that's going to consistently compete and win championships. So that's kind of our goal. In terms of the structure, obviously, I start with talent. You want the best talent, and sometimes you let the talent just sort of influence the structure. But my orientation, obviously, is that being the head of football operations, being in essence in that lead role, that's an 80-hour-a-week job. Being a head coach, that's an 80-hour-a-week job. I think there are 2 roles there. And so I think it's harder. I mean, there are certainly individuals that control everything. I think it's increasingly hard. So my orientation is not to do that. But on the other hand, I'm going to really be somewhat flexible around talent. So that's kind of how I'm going to think about it, and I hope that answered your question a bit.
Hey, Josh, David Aldridge with The
Yeah.
Athletic. What about Bob's skill set made you think he could transition across sports to be helpful to you as you start this process?
Yeah, I think that he started off, with a he started off as a UCLA basketball player winning a national championship. So he started with that. He's been a winner everywhere where he's gone. But then he was a sports agent, so he knows everyone in sports. He knows a lot of agents. Many agents, as you know, cross sports, not all, but some. A lot of the agents, he's run, multiple processes to select talent. He knows how to engage with talent. And then obviously the Golden State Warriors' success speaks for itself. They started off as a franchise that was struggling a bit, and they've emerged as, 4-time NBA champions. And he's been able to keep a collection of stars there together for a long period of time. So, look, like I said at the beginning, I think he's gonna be super helpful.
Hey, Josh, JP Finley with NBC4 and 106.7 The Fan. A lot of reporting today about requests for interviews all over the league, coach and GM positions. Ideally, what's your timeline for all this, and what's the timeline for the folks that are still here when they kind of find out their future?
Yeah, so I'm going to run a thorough but rapid process. obviously, we need the next leadership here because we got a lot of work to do. We have the draft, we have the off season, we have a lot of draft capital that we need to get prepared for. Ultimately, free agency, combines. But on the other hand, this is a really important decision, and so it's going to be a rapid but thorough process. Ideally, you would have the head of the front office in place before you ultimately select a coach, because obviously that's important. But look, again, we're not in full control of the time frame, because what we're ultimately trying to do is end up with the best people, and the best people generally have alternatives. So that's what I would say. In terms of, I spoke with the front office leadership and the coaching staff, some of the coaches today, and I appreciate that from their point of view. There's uncertainty, but I've just asked them to be a part, to bear with us, and to just to do their jobs, right? To continue to run the football team. And everyone to a person has said that they care about the club, they care about the franchise, and that they want to be part of the solution. And so, obviously, without the head coach and without the head of the front office in place, there's some uncertainty for them, and I respect that and am sympathetic to it. But on the other hand, they're professionals, and so we're working through it.
Hey, Josh, Ben Standig with The Athletic. You famously with the Sixers were willing to take a slower rebuild to get things where you wanted them to be with coming off a 4-13 season. How open are you to being patient with a rebuild, or do you see this being more of a quicker turnaround?
Yeah, listen, this was not a fun season for the ownership group. We're right there with the fans in terms of sweating every loss. And so, obviously, if we could write the script, it would be a quick turnaround. But on the other hand, you have to make long-term decisions and do things in a very, one person at a time, one athlete at a time. And so sometimes they take longer, right? So I think what my view is that we want it to be as quick as we can, but the ultimate goal, right, is to be an elite team that's competing for championships. And so I find that when you do things quickly, sometimes you set yourself back. And so my orientation is to make the right decisions and let the time frame take its own course. Obviously, I want a winning franchise quickly, but on the other hand, for me, it's about making the right decisions.
Michael Phillips, Washington Times, and 910 The Fan. You've spent a year now with the Commanders, the branding, the name. Have you had discussions about where to go from there, and what have those been like in terms of the name and the branding?
Yeah, as you can see, we're a little busy. In addition to basically picking a new head of the front office, a new coach, I see Mark in the front there. We're busy at work, working on the next improvements to our stadium in terms of fan experience, in terms of premium areas, and fixing a lot of different things, and investing in the stadium. We're going to be rolling out a big investment program in the next few weeks, and there's an enormous amount of detail that the business staff and some of the ownership group are working on. And then we've got obviously our new home and thinking about that. And so right now our focus today is on sports first and foremost, and then these other things. And so those are our focuses right now.
Josh Beresford from the Washington Post. Back to logistics a little bit. Is it your desire to have a head of football operations in place and that person hires the head coach, or will you do that in concert with that person? How will that work out?
Yeah, so my desire is to have the head of the football operations in place, and then to work to listen very hard to what that person wants to do in terms of the coaching staff. In other words, I think those two things have to work together. And obviously, as I've said before, I want to get the best talent here, and then hold them accountable and work with them, right? So what that person wants to do or not do is really important in our decision process. Doesn't mean that you are not involved in it, but it means that you're, to a large extent, you're relying on that person to bring a series of candidates to the table. And so that would be my ideal scenario. On the other hand, we have to move quickly here, so it's not perfect, but that's my orientation.
Hey Josh, Sam Fortier with the Washington Post. How many candidates do you expect to interview for each position, and are the stakes higher because of how this year went?
Yeah, I don't think we want to get into specifics around the process, but we've been thinking about who the best candidates are, and like I said, I think it's an attractive destination, and truthfully also, you don't really know who's going to be available. There's still a lot of teams playing. We wish we were one of them, but there are a lot of teams playing, and you don't know how this is going to sort out. And so I think that we'll have to see where it ends up in terms of numbers, but we're going to run a very thorough process. And anyone who is capable, who we think meets the criterion of being able to lead this franchise and win, which is our ultimate goal, then we're going to talk to them.
Josh, Steve Wonder from the Associated Press. What did you make of Eric Bieniemy's season as offensive coordinator, and will you be considering him for the head coaching vacancy?
Yeah, so I've enjoyed working with Eric, and obviously he's had success over the years. And I'd say that, I spoke to Eric today, and, he's hard at work managing our franchise. And I look forward to hopefully, if I could write the script, having our senior football operations executive in place, and then approaching the coaching search with Eric and others.
Hey, Josh, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
Candace Buckner, Washington Post. And any of your other franchises in hockey and basketball, have you gone to another sport for advice, like getting a baseball guy to help with the Sixers, or maybe NFL guy to help with the NHL, just with your advisory?
Look, I think that the answer to that is no. But I think that obviously high-quality people are available across many pursuits. And so I think that we're always looking for people that can help us. But right now, we're happy with the leadership staff we have at the Devils and the leadership staff we have at the Sixers. And they happen to come out of hockey and basketball, so we don't have any baseball or football people in the mix there.
Josh, Scott Abraham, ABC 7. Obviously, you mentioned everyone's frustrated. You're frustrated. Fans are frustrated. What's the message you want to give to this fan base to have them believe still that this ship is heading in the right direction?
Yeah, so my message to the Washington fan base is thank you. You guys showed up in droves. You believed in us. We sold out every game, even with a 4-win season. Now, granted, there were a few visiting fans there, but that's on us. We're not in the playoffs, and so thank you for showing up. And the future is bright. We have a lot of cap space. We have a great ownership group. We're very committed to winning for this city, and look forward to showing you, in addition to telling you, over the next series of years.
Josh, Chick Hernandez, WSA 9. How, you've been through this before with coaches. How difficult was the conversation with Ron Rivera, and was there thought of doing this earlier in the year?
Yeah, Ron's a consummate professional, right? Ron's been in the NFL for a long period of time, and I think he appreciated that that the team didn't perform this year. And so I think that it was not a surprise, and I think Ron is a good person, a good man. We continue to have a good relationship. I think he felt that he was, and I went out of my way to give him the season to perform, and I think there was much appreciation on all sides, and he's moving forward. I'm sure whatever he does with his life, it'll be good and successful. Obviously, I think about coaches all the time, and I don't find that changing coaches in the it's not that I've never done it, but I think that changing coaches in the middle of the season isn't tremendously productive, and I didn't think it was going to be productive here. And I had also committed to the city and to Ron when we showed up. We showed up on the eve of training camp, and I committed to the city and to Ron that we would give this the season, and that's what we did.
Mitch Tischler, Monumental Sports. After being around the NFL for the season, how much have you learned about kind of the way NFL operations run, and how does kind of the rebuild that needs to happen here compare to the state of the franchise, I guess, compare here to some of your other professional sports franchises?
Look, I'm just getting to know the NFL. I mean, obviously, it's been a good year of a lot of learning, a long year. Obviously, no success on the field, but I would say that I think there's a lot of ingredients here for success. I think we have a lot of great players in the locker room. We have a lot of committed people. We have a lot of flexibility around the draft and around our ability to spend for free agents, and so a lot of flexibility on our roster. And I think we will recruit amazing individuals on the coaching side and on the front office side. So I'm pretty optimistic that we're going to be able to move the ball here very quickly.
Hey, Josh, George Wallace, WTOP Radio. A lot of players today were talking about how encouraging and refreshing it was when you addressed them this morning. How important is that for you to have that kind of open dialogue with the team, with the players?
I think it's very important. Look, at the end of the day, the players are the ones that win games. Owners don't win games, coaches don't win games, players win games, and they see things that you don't always see. They experience the world in a different way. We're not out there, they are. And so I think it's very important to be having a dialogue with the players, listening to some of the leadership, listening to how they feel about things. Obviously, ultimately, the decision rests with me and the ownership group as to who the leadership is. So you don't give away that decision-making authority, but I think it's very important to be engaged with your players, particularly the captains and the leadership. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. To be continued.